After a stirring win over Collingwood last week, the undermanned Dockers now face another massive test. It's a road trip to take on the reigning Premier Sydney. With a 5-2 record, a win tonight for the Dockers could really set up their season. You can see the live ladder there. It's 5th against 6th. So much at stake. Both teams on 5-2. Good evening and welcome one and all. It's round 8 from the SCG. Sydney against Fremantle. A Sydney Premiership coach, Fitzroy, and Sydney legend Paul Roos alongside me. And alongside him, the man that takes the reins and steers the helm for the Fremantle Dockers, Ross Lyon. Welcome to you, Rossi.
Thank you, Jason.
And Roosy, I should not.
Thanks, Joe. Don't
Of course, welcome you first. Very chummy here listening to you two
Not often
talk.
he gets left out.
Exactly right. It's a big test tonight, and look, you've been very big on preaching structure versus personnel because you are missing quite a few of your starters.
Yeah, it helps preaching that when they are missing. So, look, there's a tipping point, obviously, but we feel we've held ourselves together really well. And really, the first thing I preach and really the group is effort. You know, if you don't, effort doesn't come, nothing else matters. So, you know, we want to see bodies flying early and you know, the work rate high, and then play with pressure and turn the ball over and try and score quickly.
Obviously, last week I thought it was a super win, but losing Griffin's a tough one. He's been fantastic. I thought Zach Dawson filled in superbly, but bringing Big Clark in was really important, I guess, tonight, particularly with Mumford back in for the Swans.
Yeah, we did toy with going on and off the ball with, say, Mumford or Pike, but we just thought Zach Clark is ready to go. He can get his hand to it a bit more than Jack has. And fortunate because Sydney went tall, so Dawson's going to be needed in defence.
Sydney also 5-2 as they make their way onto the SCG after a 37-point loss to the Hawks last week. No doubt you would have had a close look at that performance, Rossi. What did you make of it?
Of the Hawks?
Yeah, of Sydney.
Yeah, the Hawks first. I had a good look at the Geelong game, what they did up here as well. And look, what they did, they won the ball and pressured and were really aggressive, and they didn't hold themselves up because the Swannies can strangle you still. So we want to get hold of the ball and move it quickly.
To Michael Walters, a lot been said about the story, sending him back to a waffle last year. Yeah. But I mean, there's one thing disciplining someone, another thing when the kid responds. And I think he's made a really big statement, obviously, to the football club and the football world. He's just become a very, very good player.
Yeah, so we delivered a consequence, you know, football mortality, and it was his response that's been the turning point. And we created an environment for him to work his way back. And I think you go back to Nick Davis years ago now, but it's act your way in, act your way out. He's adhered to the standards, and fortunately, it's a great story, but we'd like him to keep going tonight, obviously.
Rossi, Daniel Pearce is another one that you recruited in the off-season. He played really well the first few weeks, burst onto the scene. Has the loss of Stephen Hill perhaps meant that he's got a bit more attention for his outside run?
Yeah, I think it's got real relevance. It's the combination with them all there puts pressure, and so he's got a little bit more attention. He's winning the ball. It's probably been his decision-making with the ball, and I think one of the shows, he's had some moments to seal games for us, but he hasn't taken the opportunity, so I'm sure that will come. But Stephen Hill back in will, you know, they'll compound effect together, and they really help us get through the lines.
Now, who's the lucky bloke for the Swans that's going to get Crowley? Can you give us a tip on that?
We're playing McVeigh, but we'll think he'll go to half-back to replace Matner and Shaw not being there. So it's a bit about he might go to Jack, or he'll look at Jetta or Hanbury.
How's that? Oh, you haven't prepared for it,
Actually, we said, Ryan, just go and play.
Do you want me and Jace to sort it out?
Well, it's got us on the hop a little bit, so we're just going to have a look at him and then send him to someone.
I need to break you blokes out of coach speak. Rossi, really appreciate your time. Good luck tonight.
Thanks, Jason.
It is going to be an absolutely massive clash. So much at stake for two of the teams that we think are going to be amongst the heavyweights at the end of the season. We're not far off a start here at the SCG. Join us for the first bounce on the other side of the break.
I guess as a player, you don't like seeing bits of footage where, you know, you could work a bit harder, or you know, there's times where we were pretty soft, so hopefully we can really respond. There's some efforts that weren't, you know, I guess we're unswans-like in a sense, so you know, we just want to make sure we really dig in this weekend.
Well, they were the strong words from one of Sydney's favourite sons, Jude Bolton, after last week's 37-point loss to the Hawks. I can guarantee you won't see a repeat of that effort tonight. There is a lot at stake for both of these teams. And to preview the strengths of both sides, we welcome for the first time tonight, David King.
Thanks, Jace. Well, we know the identity of these two sides. We know what the Sydney Swans look like under John Longmire and what the Fremantle Dockers look like under Ross Lyon. They've got a similar strength area when you look at the game in isolation. The Swans like to play slingshot football. They like to get the ball, or they're prepared to absorb inside 50s from the opposition, which tonight's the Fremantle Dockers. The Dockers love to lock that ball into their forward half and force the opposition into turnover and score goals from variety of options, and hopefully we'll see that again tonight. They like to intercept if you can. Let's just picture exactly what this looks like. Forward 50 for the Dockers here. A stoppage in there. The Swans will go in. They'll push right in. They'll get their numbers in and try and win this ball. The Fremantle Dockers will separate. They'll hold a few defenders across that half-forward line, outside of 50, looking to intercept that ball. We've seen this in weeks gone by, and we've seen this under Ross Lyon for a long period of time. Here's it in isolation one from last week. You can just see there, Collingwood win the stoppage, and bang, the pressure comes from everywhere. Ballantyne, Walters, De Boer, they force a surge kick, a hack kick out, intercept mark eventuates, and they get a score. They took 25 of those last week, which is nearly an all-time high for the Fremantle Dockers. You can see those 3 chips there. If the Swans surge kick that out tonight, they will cut that ball off. It's players like Spur and Ibbotson in particular who have got the licence to release from their direct opponent and go and intercept the play. They love to intercept mark and counterpunch at pace, as we know, and 60 of their 90 points per week come from turnover. That's what I'll be watching tonight, to see if the Swans can control their counter-attack out of that defensive 50 area, because this also is the Swans game. They like to play the game in a fast sense once it gets out of their defensive 50. If they can run and carry and link and get that ball over the line, then away they go. Those footsteps down the bottom there, well, we know who they belong to. Lewis Jetta, who had an outstanding 2012. He kicked 45 goals. He averaged 5 inside 50s a week. Hasn't found his best form so far this year, but just the last couple of weeks, they've got him going again. They've cranked him up, and this sort of run here is what caused the Fremantle defence, and in particular Ross Lyon, some heartache. The class at the end of it to kick the goal or find the target is exactly what we'll be looking for. Whoever wins the battle in the absolute middle of the ground, in the centre bounce area, if the Swans can win it in here, then the Fremantle Dockers won't get near them. If Freo can win them, then it's game alive with what we've just shown. Let's go upstairs and welcome Dwayne Russell, the best caller in the business, to the coverage.
Thanks, Kingy, and a fantastic explanation of what we might see unfold tonight. 1,000 games and 7 premierships between our 3 experts tonight, Paul Roos, Jason Dunstall and David King. So settle in for this one. Top 4 spot on offer with a win tonight for one of these 2 teams. The Sydney Swans lineup, they've got some big ins. Shane Mumford back into the lineup after a groin issue. Tommy Walsh also in, first game of 2013 for Tommy Walsh. Mitch Morton also into their lineup, and as you saw, Craig Bird will be the sub. And for Fremantle also a big in or 2. Zach Clark to help out in the ruck, his first game for the season. And Nathan Fyfe back after a couple of games suspension, and his record here at the SCG is simply awesome. 3 games for 7 Brownlow votes so far, so expect Nathan Fyfe to make himself at home as well.
Well, he's one of the players I actually had a close look at down on the ground, Dwayne. When you're walking past him, you just can't really imagine how big they are. I walked past Nat Fyfe, also Chris Mayne. They're both 6'3", 6'4". They're an enormous size for the type of athletes they are. You can just see he towers over Jack there, so he's going to be an important inclusion for the Dockers.
Looks like Adam Good starting on a wing as well, and Ross Lyon said it's good. You can see how much work they put in. Ross Lyon thought that McVeigh would start on the halfback flank, given that Matner was out, and he was right. Looks like he's on a halfback flank.
So we're underway in this battle between 5th and 6th on the AFL ladder. Mundy with the first clearance to bomb inside 50. Good fly. Silvani starting forward again. Good's quick handball up. Smith, Malcheski pumps it wide, rolling ball. Johnson should get there first. Hanbury's cutting him down quickly and didn't corral him all that well. Thought he was going to go backwards. Barlow.
That's the first look at what Kingy was talking about, Dwayne. This that kick out. That's what the Swans are going to be a bit careful. We saw 3 Dockers guys there, Kingy, all getting back to that ball pretty quickly. So that's what you talked about pre-game.
That's their mode, isn't it, Ross? Ross loves that coverage across the wings. Look at that for a pass.
Yeah, Clark to Mundy to Ballantyne. That was perfection there. Saw Clancy Pierce in the pocket, elected not to go.
Now this is going to be the tough kick for the Dockers, because the Swans are really good. Jude Bolton already in the hole.
To Duffield, long bomb to the square, missed completely by Pike, and lucky enough he got back to mop his own mess up.
Well, he could have taken an uncontested mark, because it wasn't a great option in the end. The hand pass from Ballantyne to Duffield really didn't put him any closer to range.
O'Keefe, and here it is again.
Yeah,
the pressure to bring it back.
Yeah, that's 2. So their first 2 exits have gone pretty much straight to Dockers, so they're going to have to think their way through this a little bit better.
Duffield inboard, Dawson So this is the wall. They work it around the key basketball style. Try and find some space. McFarlane, Clark.
It doesn't always look good, Dwayne, and sometimes you've got to come back around the other way and you just keep probing until a hole opens.
Welcome back. Sorry, Jason.
No, that's exactly what we're talking about, though. You chip it around until you see the right avenue to go forward to, and you kick to a contest that is to your advantage. And he had a height reach, he had front position. He was never going to get spoiled. It was a beautiful kick. It looks like he's kicking into traffic, but he's kicking to 5. He's got to run and jump against the smaller opponent.
Back in after a 2-game suspension. That's what he has ahead of him. Hot start from the Dockers.
Well, you touched on it, Jason. It could be a significant advantage for the Dockers. And I was exactly the same as you, looking at their centre bounces before the game. And the size of Fife and Mundy in particular, Barlow's certainly not small either. And he is very, very good overhead. Now, I think it might have been Dan Hanbury that he took forward on that particular occasion. So the record of the SCG is fantastic. 23 disposals, 2 Brownlow votes. He had a quiet one, that one. He got 3 Brownlow votes and 2 Brownlow votes. So 23, 31 and 28. I mean, this game does suit him a little bit. You can just get to a few more contests on the SCG than you can at Subi, and he's so good overhead. And that's where guys like Kieran Jack, who's not great overhead, Dan Hanbury's not super overhead, but he's got a significant size advantage. Be interesting to see where they need to force Adam Goods to go to him as a bit more of a defensive, particularly if he keeps taking the mids forward of the Sydney Swans.
Good ball up. Pike and Clark. Not a decisive takeaway.
So the two small matchups forward for the Dockers, Roos. You've got Ballantyne, Nick Smith goes to him, and Dane Rampy goes to Walters.
Yeah.
Pearce, Crowley, Subin. And they go forward again. Smith sits under this. Ballantyne made a contest. Got it to ground. Walters having an outstanding year. 1-2 with Barlow. Pokes it wide, hoping for Ballantyne to get there. He gets it off Main. Snaps toward goal. Might bounce through. Gets a Sydney bounce. And Richards took it out.
I think what you might find, Jace, is I think you might find that Smith might take the deep one. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll watch that matchup whether Rampy just takes the high half forward, being Walters or Ballantyne, and Smith takes the deeper one.
Calm down, Kennedy. Almost threw that away. Parker wrapped up. And you can throw a tarp around 20 of them right now. They are jammed in there, as we expected. From the flick down. There's Rampy. Couldn't get it free though. Walters. Duffield centering, disciplined kick over De Boer's head. Barlow. Caught, dragged down. Didn't have prior opportunity, so it can't be ball. Even the crowd wanted it.
Just once again, that scrubby little kick coming out from Rampy just going to get gobbled up all day. So they're going to have to use their hands or switch the play the other side of the ground. They can't keep coming back down the same line.
So Kennedy, and now they can get over the top perhaps. Push off from McGlynn. Not caught. That's a splendid tackle.
Great tackle. Great tackle.
So Spur to take it. Tied him up. He was going nowhere with the wing. Clancy Pearce. Hannah sits under it. Ball hits the deck. Walters, you had that and lost it. Goods flicks it back. McVeigh.
We know the Swans are a really good side too, Jason, defending their 50. We saw it in the grand final last year.
They can soak it up, don't they?
They do soak it up. They can. They're the best team in the competition at absorbing pressure in their defensive 50.
Johnson leaps. Pike also up. And a good grab in front of him by Pike. And now they should be over the top. Jack, where he's hoping there's space, but Freemantle working back quickly. Bolton dumped after he dumped it. Subin through some legs. Daniel Pearce. Barlow. And now an open forward line for Freemantle. Doesn't get to Walters. Ballantyne peels back onto it and nails it.
Well, you've got to punish the opposition for errors, and I think it was Dane Rampy who got clean bowled. It went straight through the legs. And it wasn't initially a great kick to Ballantyne's advantage, but he stayed in the contest. We'll have a look when Barlow looks up. He misses him, but he pushes back. And there's Dane Rampy, just got clean bowled through the legs, and Ballantyne onto it. So a really good start for the Dockers. A lot of confidence. They've won 2 of their last 3 here, so no fears at the SCG.
Well, problem for them at the moment, the Swans, is they've hardly had any of the ball. It's 6-0 inside 50, so the pressure is all down on the defensive end for the Swans. 17 possessions to 6. They just need to get hold of the ball and just work it around by foot and just hang on to it for a couple of minutes.
We spoke about Ryan Crowley. Dan Hanbury is the one that's copping that Gruzi, and that's not a bad decision, I think.
Yeah, he's been terrific, Dan, so he's an important player for them now. Daniel
Pearce looking for Hannah. That's a good mark to Richards. Use the foot. Little nudge out with the foot. It's took the mark.
One of the few things left you can use, Dwayne, apparently.
Everett. He's a late in, Andreas Everett. If you're wondering why he's playing, Martin Matner out. And he turns it over.
I reckon that had upset Johnny Longmire. He had the option to hand pass to Mark McVeigh, who's to Jared McVeigh, I should say, who's one of the best kicks going in the game, and he ignores him and then turns it over.
Fife again. And that's a long pump. It's not accurate enough, but gee, had the carry almost in the end.
Yeah, they're going to have to get it in the hands of their best decision makers, and Jared McVeigh is probably the best decision maker for the Swans. So to think their way through that. That's the 4th or 5th time they've come out of defence and just bombed it, and every single time there's been 2 or 3 Dockers that have been there.
So O'Keefe goes inboard to the corridor. Some rare space. Jack wants to play on into that space. Sidestep from Parker was good. Now McLean, and it opens up for Morton from 50. Bends it back, high to the square. Hanbury, well, he peeled off and got there, put the Jets on.
Well, that was set up by Ryan O'Keefe kicking to the corridor there, Jace. Better decision makers, getting hold of the ball, slowing it down, being more controlled, and then hitting a target going into the corridor. And gee, Crowley looked like he completely lost that ball, didn't he?
Had his worst possession game of the year last week, Dan Hanbury. Wants to make amends for that, no doubt. And the Swans are on the board.
The interesting thing with the Hanbury-Crowley matchup, Jason, with the depth now that the Swans have through their midfield, they can almost afford to take Crowley out of that middle area of the ground. Now, not that they'll probably do it with Hanbury, but that's certainly an option they've got. But really good inside. Look at Hanbury running forward.
From the wing.
From the wing, into the space. It's a bit of a balloon ball from Mitch Morton, but Crowley just completely lost the ball, whether it was in the lights, but he completely lost it.
Well, it's one of the best on one of the best. So that's a matchup. Should entertain us right throughout the night. And the ball up. Hanneth into the ruck now against Mumford. Subin a clearance. Silvani will get there to contest. Richards. Chesky. O'Keefe. Goods. Up and running now.
Great tackle.
Turnover, and that's what it's all about, the pressure. Barlow. Can he hit a body on the way back? You bet he can. Zach Clark.
Yeah, set up on the tackle.
Gee, that's clever, isn't it? Really good defensive pressure from the Dockers. It's interesting because we spoke to Rossi Lyon prior to the game. He said they thought that McVeigh would play at half-back. You've got Matty de Boer, who plays that half-forward defensive role. Does he go to Malcheski? Does he go to McVeigh? Well, he's gone to McVeigh now that he's playing at half-back.
First game for 2013 for Zach Clark. And that was never in doubt.
I'm not sure if that's what they call economy of effort, but he was 40 out and he kicked it 42 metres. It's just looped over the last line of defence, but very accurate. Here's the hand pass and the run out of defence. He gets it back O'Keefe from Goods, but the de Boer tackle was first rate. Now, he had options. He had a long option you can see down the goal square. Walters wanted it, but he just turned back onto the left foot and found Zach Clark, who pushed forward into space. He's got to make the most of this opportunity now, Zach Clark. He gets himself back in. He's fit. He's up and running. He's got to have an impact.
Yeah, you're spot on, Jason. This is the first time Zach Clark's had an opportunity to be a ruckman.
And there's the
Dwayne Sandlands and Griffin being with him.
That scored some turnovers, Dwayne, huge. 3 goals too. So it's exactly what Kingy talked about. They're just creating turnovers, and the Swans just got to really think they're just a messy free kick there too. They've got to really think their way through their rebounds from defensive 50.
Fife. Walters.
Gee, weighted the kick beautifully. I thought he was going to have a long pot shot for goal because he nearly kicked a bomb from inside the square earlier, and he was probably in range, but he saw Walters leading into space. And even though it's a tight angle, When you've got confidence in your forwards to get the job done, you just keep feeding them the ball and the score starts to build up.
Become one of the most damaging players in the comp this year, Michael Walters. 19-13 for the season, opens up the angle, and that was ugly.
That's the problem when you run off line to try and open up the angle. You've got to straighten again before you kick the ball. And he just didn't do that.
What's your thoughts on that kick, Jace? I mean, the guy at his skill level should almost run straight at the target and just hit a natural kick rather than a loopy one like you mentioned.
Otherwise, play on and go way out. Run 10 metres to the straight, sideways to the left, and then straighten for the last couple. But don't just arc out a little bit.
Yeah.
Tommy Walsh makes a contest. Back into the lineup as well for Sydney. Goods pops it. And Walsh told it would have been play on, but it's out on the full. I don't know how that works. If it was touch play on, it must be a ball in, surely.
Yeah. That's a strange decision.
Ibbotson.
Was it touch play on or play on because
I think it was play on because it wasn't 10 metres.
Yeah.
I think that's what he called.
Spur. Sutcliffe.
They're getting the game played on their terms here, Freemantle.
Oh, dangerous kick.
Kennedy. You're right, Kingy, until that moment. Turnover, and it might work in their favour. Parker directly out, but it's a long kick.
It was just the kick from Cameron Sutcliffe. He wanted to bring it back into the corridor, which isn't a bad option, but if you don't execute it right, you open yourself up, and here they go again.
And it's some space, and he lurked there for a while, Andreas Everett.
Big opportunity for Everett tonight, Ruse. He's kind of been on the fringe a little bit, hasn't he? So he gets the opportunity with a late inclusion tonight. Can he make the most of it?
Yeah, look, he's the sort of play you just look at and you think he could explode in his career. I mean, obviously, he's been in and out of 2 teams now, so it is an important night for him.
4th game of the year for Andreas Everett. Not a problem there. What pressure?
Oh, this is just classic Sydney football. So they've had 3 inside 50s now to 10. They've weathered the storm down one end of the ground, and they've had 2 goals from 3 entries going inside 50. So this is just classic football, and both teams are playing probably the way they want to play, although John Longmire wouldn't be happy with the amount of inside 50s the other end. It's 2 entries for 2 goals. So it's quite a fascinating tactical battle at this stage of the game. You see the centre clearances, which are generally really important in most grounds, but more particular at the SCG. So 4-0, and that's certainly a concern for the Swans coaching staff.
Duffield. Mundy. Hanneth on the move, is too far in front. Richards. Wanted to come to the open side. Clark. Good hands. Good use of the body before that. So Main in front. Hanneth leaps, and Main very strong there.
See, that's a good grab, isn't it?
That is a good grab.
And he was getting hit by traffic as he went up for that as well.
I tell you, he's a horribly underrated player, isn't he? We probably don't appreciate him as much on this side of the country as I'm sure they do over in the West, but he's a very, very good player.
Well, that just shows you where he operates. He's very much a corridor player, and he's very accurate in front of goal because he gives himself good opportunities. He's got a wonderfully simple technique, keeps everything in a straight line, normally just kicks through the target.
He kicked 4 goals last time he played here as well. And on cue, he misses a rare one. 14 goals, 4.
He did exactly the same thing in the warm-up. I was watching that. He doesn't realise that he's just running slightly off target.
The other thing, it looked like his left leg collapsed there, Jace, too. His holding leg as he kicked it with his right, it looked like it just wasn't stable enough as he kicked through the football.
Pike to Everett. Morton caught, dispossessed. And the hassling of Fremantle causes a ball in.
There's about 10 players there just chasing and harassing the Sydney Swans on counter-attack. It's just a fantastic illustration of how tough and tight our game has become.
2 finals contenders here going head-to-head, 5th and 6th on the AFL ladder, playing for a top 4 spot if they win tonight.
The concern at the moment, Kingy, for Ross Lyon, though, they've had everything on their own terms, as you suggested. 12-2 inside 50, 7-2 scoring shots, but only a 10-point lead.
I think if you can get in your forward line against Fremantle, you can score easy goals, and they are prepared to roll the dice with the mechanics of how they play. But this is them right now in the fight, in the hunt, right in front of us here. This is on.
Yeah, every player's on this wing. In essence, there's no one on the other side of the ground. Hanbury plays for the in the back, and the umpire happy to clear the congestion, you'd think.
This is where the Swans have got to spread the ball around. Even now go backwards. Try and drag this zoning type defence.
That works. Parker with a little flick from Goods. Gets it back again, McGlynn.
Even these little kicks are better than certainly a bomb kick to 2 or 3 Dockers versus 1 Swan.
And there's that bomb. McFarlane wanted to go from 4 deep through Pike's hands. Knocked down by Hannah. Parker kick smothered out of play, but Swans won't mind a ball in here.
Yeah, this is one thing they do very well, the Swans, is the forward 50 stoppages.
So Pike and Hannah. Again, you could throw a blanket over 20 of them. Crazy scramble.
It doesn't matter where the stoppage is, they love it, Sydney. 74 stoppages around the ground per game. That's the #1 team in the competition in terms of average stoppages.
Mumford can't break free with it.
Zach Dawson just needs to be a little bit careful on Mumford. Mumford's certainly coming 3rd man up, and Dawson, as the non-competing ruckman, is trying to block him. So just be interesting here. He's just got to be careful he doesn't give away a free kick. That's better by Dawson. Just jump without putting body contact on.
Duffield can't shrug. Got a handball out. Barlow. Crowley. Squeezes the kick wide. Rampy tried to fend off. Taken by De Boer.
You'd love De Boer in your team, Jace, wouldn't you? Just 100% effort every week.
Discipline. Doesn't take risks. He plays the percentages all the time. And as we said, he's doing a pretty good job on McVeigh.
And kind said when he changed to #9 from 40, if there's any kid out there with a number 40 on their back, he'll buy him a new jumper. Kennedy gives it up. Hanbury flies that wide.
I wonder how many blokes that didn't have a jumper said, "Yep, I've got one."
Got one. Yeah.
Nearly, please. But it is a wonderful gesture, isn't it?
I wonder if Michael Jordan did that when he changed numbers. He could have probably afforded, but gee, there would have been a lot of 23 jerseys.
Very good point. From the knockdown, Jack, he breaks free in some space to the goal square. Reed's down there. Finally gets it and misses with a handball. Sutcliffe.
He probably could have turned around and
He
kicked
could
it.
have, yeah.
Bolton from the pocket. Time to size it up. Yeah.
I'm not sure who the tackler there of the Freo Dockers, but he gave absolutely right side to Jude Bolton. And that's that classic, I'm sure everyone, Jude Bolton's played 300 games, I'm sure that Dockers play. Let's see it here. We can see here, he called it, probably Reedy might have been able to slip it through, but as we're coming out to the side there, Spur was it? He just gives him his right side, Jace. I mean, that's just really poor scouting.
Well, the other thing he does is he slips over because he probably just needed to.
Oh, just go right.
A bit.
Great finish though.
Sydney starting to motor now from the ball up. Getting some clearances as well. Parker to Malachevsky. Reed got his hands on one before. Oh, Morton from nowhere. Brought it down, wasn't paid.
That was a mark, wasn't it? Yeah, one clean grab.
Kennedy can't get free with it. The crowd still want the mark to be paid.
That looked like one clean grab in a pack.
Yeah, it certainly did. Here it is again.
Comes from the right-hand side here. That's a clean grab.
That is a mark every day of the week.
Took it all the way to the ground.
Malachevsky. Umpire cuts him some slack knowing he just made a blue. And again, there's this mad scramble in the middle.
It's hard to, I mean, there's a lot of bodies flying out that contest, but it's hard to believe the umpire wouldn't have seen him bring it to ground.
Well, there's 3 umpires. One of them surely saw that. O'Keefe can't get away. Zach Clark tackle. It's the final. It's like a chess game at the moment. Tight, hard. Doesn't seem like a round 8 contest. Fife. And Smith played front spot.
Become a very good player, Nick Smith. It's a tough day at the office for whoever he plays on. We saw him at Rioli last year in the grand final, and if he's got Ballantyne all night, it's going to be a tough night for Ballantyne. He's a very, very disciplined Swans player.
Kennedy spears that. Reid, he's out of sorts, out of form. Crowley got the handle towards Pearce. Reid tried to keep it there. Silvani tried to get it out, stolen by Kennedy. McVeigh to Reid. Backtracks coming off a 9-possession game last week. Here's Reid, and he's really struggled at times this year.
It's interesting, Dwayne. I was having a chat with George Stone, one of the Sydney assistants, prior to the game. We're talking about Sam Reid, and I said, well, I don't reckon he leads enough to get the easy ones on the lead. That was perfect.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful lead, and he just spilt it because he has no confidence in his hands at the moment.
Pearce in front of Jack. Manufactured a kick. Didn't really count. Kennedy, tackled by Pearce. Tackle just as effective as the kick. Ball in.
Well, we spend a lot of time talking about goal kickers, Jace, when they lose confidence, but probably we don't give enough. We don't talk enough about. I mean, marking is a skill as well, and Sammy Reid is one of the best marks. But once you lose confidence in any skill in the game, whether it be kicking, marking, or goal kicking, it takes a while to get it back.
Tommy Walsh can't get there in time to have an attempt at a mark, and he bumps Spur, who takes the free.
He's a wonderful player, Lee Spur. He's a great intercept marker. He's a very instinctive player. He reminds me a lot, even though he's got a long way to go before we compare him to these sorts of players, but of a young Glenn Archer, just no fear for his own safety.
That is in the wow category.
Former teammate of Glenn Archer, David King, on the boundary. Played in 2 premierships together, so he knows Glenn Archer very well. And big raps for Lee Spur. Every game this year again, Lee Spur. Swans threatening to take the lead here at quarter time. Had a good few minutes. Fife can't get a kick away. Hanbury caught by Subin. Jack, and into the space they run. Rampy to Goods. Morton wants it long. He might sit on Everton's head here. Or he tried to. Duffield. And that could be deliberate.
Yeah, that will be.
Jude Bolton's free. Maybe too far out to have a crack at it. This is for the lead. Top of the square instead. Reid again. Mumford there. Off hands. Tommy Walsh couldn't get a kick away. Duffield, that one's better. Short. 14 metres, but Pearce.
It was
good
short.
vision.
Very
really
short.
good vision.
Yeah, it was good vision. Well, that's the one, Jace, where we're seeing the Swans at the other end blast that kick out.
Yeah.
It was just a really controlled, nice kick, seeing a target.
Duffield again. Freemantle kicked the first 2 goals of this one. Swans fighting back. Mumford, Grundy both there. Towed off the deck by Walters. That'll work. Clark wants a handball. Not to Hannah, though. He wanted someone else. Silvani, no one to go to. Main caught, dispossessed. Pearce under pressure. Gets up. That was his prior. Got off the deck. Umpire let him off.
Gee, there were plenty of numbers around the ball for Frab, but the 2 blokes that started the chain of hand passes were Zach Clark and Jack Hannah, and they were the 2 that they didn't want.
O'Keefe. Fife stole it from him. Parker wraps him up. Clancy Pearce. Mundy. And out of the opening. Spur. Good ball. Walters forward. Silvani forward. Fisted to the deck. De Boer. Didn't want to go left. Barlow.
That is a great kick.
Yeah. That's a great kick.
He realised once he slipped that the opportunity to kick the goal was past, so he quickly bounced up and looked around for an option, and he found Barlow, and that was a brilliant little kick over the shoulder.
You just sense that decision-making tonight, Jay, is going to be so important because both teams are putting on a really hard sort of defensive press, getting numbers round. The team that can think their way through that the best has got a really good chance of winning tonight.
Couple of skip steps to the booze. This will be against the flow. And he misses anyway.
Well, that's 8 scoring shots to 3, so John Longmire wouldn't be unhappy. He's probably not that happy with the way his team's playing, but he certainly wouldn't be unhappy with the scoreboard. And the other coaches, Ross Lyon, will be very disappointed that they're not going in 3 or 4 goals up at quarter time.
Jack caught another good tackle. Pike put his body on the line well. Goods got it from Smith. Arms free back to Smith. Blind turn. Spectacular. Jack. And now McGlynn on the open side. Not a lot to go to forward. Pokes it up. Tommy Walsh is there. Too many bodies. Spur.
It's just classic. King summed it up really well. It's just classic footy we expected from these two teams. 14 to 8 inside 50s. We talked about the Swans absorbing the forward 50 entries of Freo, and then we saw the Swans on the counter-attack. Not a great kick into the 50, but speaking of not great kicks, Dwayne, that's not a great kick, but that's it. It's actually almost the sort of game we expected, Jace, coming in.
Yep. Yeah, it's really going to be about making the right decisions and making the most of your opportunities.
His Jetta was lucky he didn't get a falcon there. Lucky he put his arm up.
Goods on the run from the ball up.
Just to highlight your point there, Roosie, the Swans lost the inside 50 count head-to-head 12 times last year and won 8 of those games. So it doesn't faze them.
No, not at all. We saw before where there was some overhandball with a couple of tools, Kingy, but Melcheski's always... Melcheski or Matner. Matner's not playing tonight. Melcheski, Matner, Grundy, Richards. They never let a defender get goal side, so they're always going to be the last one back. And they do that really, really well, the Swans. You're very rarely going to get a goal over the top running into open space.
Spur to McFarlane. We talked about the late change for Sydney. Everett in for Matner. There was a late change for Fremantle. If you just joined us, Tendai Mzungu also back in. Hayden Crozier, a late withdrawal. Seconds remaining. Knocked down on the wing. Fight. Wide ball down to 30. Can Crowley get there? He did. Couldn't bring it in. Still time enough for a score from here. Fremantle kicked the first 2 goals of the game. The Swans have kicked the last 2. Dying seconds of a tight opening term played in a pressure cooker. Hits the deck again. Plenty of bodies around it. Hard to get it out. Mundy. Barlow. The clock continues to run. Hacked forward by Mundy. Full forward. 5 down there. Quick to pounce. Spin. Kick.
Miss. And another miss. The Swans have already conceded 6 marks inside the defensive 50. Normally they only concede 8 per game. So everything going in the Dockers' favour except for that scoreboard, Jace. 3 goals, 6. And we nearly saw it on Friday night with the West Coast Eagles. They nearly kicked themselves out of the game as well.
John Long might have talked to David King at quarter time here, but McFarlane marks not time enough for a score here unless he gets a crazy 50. And that doesn't happen. So 6 more scoring shots for Fremantle than Sydney, and yet they only lead by 6 points. 3-6-24 to 3 straight 18. Quarter time at the SCG in a playoff for a top 4 spot tonight. Quarter time at the Sydney Cricket Ground, and it's more like a street fight than a game of football. 3-6-24 plays 3 straight 18. It's hard, it's tight, it's straight jacket footy, but it's what we expected.
Yeah, it probably is. I think Freo have made a great start here. As we've said, they've played well here before. Fife, Barlow, Duffield getting plenty of the ball. No surprise to see Kieran Jack, Josh Kennedy and Adam Goods winning most of the ball for the Swans either. But they're only playing in bursts at the moment, Bruce. I don't think we've seen anywhere near their best. They were down last week, haven't quite hit their straps either this week. You can see John Longmire having plenty to say to the team.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think the telling stat is the inside 50s 15-9 and scoring shots 9-3. So John have got a fair bit to work on. The thing in their favour is the scoreboard. They're only 6 points down. So Ross Lyon's team is certainly, I'm not sure they dominated, but I reckon Ross got it pretty much on his own terms in the first quarter.
Swans only had 41 touches.
Yeah.
Now you extrapolate that over 4 quarters, 160 possessions for a match isn't going to get you much, is it?
Well, what they're doing, they're not spreading the ball around. I think we get down to John Longmire now with David King.
John, the first quarter probably favoured Fremantle in terms of all the numbers. Your thoughts at quarter time?
Yeah, I thought probably for the first half of that quarter it was obviously the first 10 minutes played in their half, so we got back a little bit better after that, but certainly the first 10 minutes were on the back foot.
Your major message at the break?
I hope so. We'll wait and see. I mean, we've just got to make sure we don't get outnumbered and play hard, good, strong, tough footy for a bit longer.
Any big changes of note or not?
Not yet. We'll see how this quarter pans out.
Good luck.
Thanks, mate.
I was talking about kicks, not overall disposals, Ruse, but 41 kicks. And they've had more handballs than kicks, so that's not the right balance either.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Jace, I think they need to spread the ball around by feet. You know, they haven't done that. We see on the other side at 64-29 kick the handball. So Freo have spread it around, use their feet, but the Swans are trying to charge their way through that press, and it's just certainly not working at the moment.
Fremantle by 6 points. Second term underway. Mumford won the palm down, but Mundy almost sharked it and got the clearance. O'Keefe quick in, hacks it off the deck. Little flick on McGlynn almost worked. Bolton, Goods. And they get the inside 50. Touch play on. Dawson hears the call. Johnson. Everton. Sits it up a little high. The ball couldn't really get a run at it. McVeigh got the handball and finds Reid. Goes with a chest mark. And this will be huge for his confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. He was looking to give it off. I'd like to see him go back, take his time and kick this. I mean, this could have a huge impact on his confidence for the rest of the game, as you say, Dwayne. Nothing flash about it. He just dropped into a pocket, got a simple little chip kick, but a good kick here. He could be on his way.
Goalless last week. Goalless in 4 of his 7 games so far this year. And still goalless tonight. Clark on the line. Everton, half smothered. McGlynn just bumped in opportune time. Gets it up. Reid again. Goods must tackle before he got it. Barlow was ready for it. Mundy thought about the line. Fife. Rampy had him. Malcheski hacks it forward. And that'll do the Swans. They'll take a ball in forward pocket every time. 6 points the margin. Sydney has not led tonight, if you joined us late. Fremantle kicked the first 2 goals of this game. Clark down. Fife tried to break free, had an arm held. Again, you could throw a tea towel over 20 of them this time. And another ball up.
That setup down there, King, is pretty much a duplicate as we see it here. I mean, the Swans are pretty much now trying to do what the Dockers do. Keep it inside their forward 50. Big numbers around. That bomb kick out.
Silvani put his body on the line. Hannah read it well. Main. De Boer had no one to go too forward, wanted to go back. Silvani, Main, caught by Hanbury. Good tackling from both sides at the moment. Malcheski, Grundy, Rampy, Richards, Smith, Jetta.
First touch for Lewis Jetta.
Oh, Bolton. There's a tough handball. There's open space ahead for the Dockers so they can peel onto this. Spur does. Mundy looks up. Clancy Pearce could go all the way home. Ballantyne wants it, of course. It's in Ballantyne's direction. He's up and can't land on his feet. Richards landed like a cat. Handed it over the top. Parker. Ball eludes him.
Yeah, he's upset, Ballantyne. He looks back. He didn't want the ball sat on Richards' head. He wanted to kick 10 metres over the top of him where he could take the easy chest mark and probably run in and kick a goal. But Lewis Jetta needs to get into the game for the Swans. He's had a shocker, just the one possession. We just saw the hand pass and it wasn't a good one.
Well, he's so important for them, particularly in these type of games, Jace, where it's very stop-start. He's the one that's going to really get them going on the fly, and he just needs to get on the end of a couple and run and carry.
He's another that was goalless last week, Lewis Jetta. Reid comes all the way back to half-back for a possession. Floats it up on Tommy Walsh's head. Pike made it his. Good attack. Hanbury. Now Jetta's peeling back to the square. Jack to Goods. Goods should go for home. He goes to Jetta. No.
I'm not sure whether he was having a bob each way there, whether it was Jetta or whether he was trying to stab the goal.
So kick it toward the goal then, and Jetta runs onto it.
He does, yeah. Gee, the pressure levels have been good. Whenever players are going to kick the footy, they don't have a lot of time to make their decision or execute the skill.
Here's to Clark, who fell over. Mumford 3 grabs.
And this has been Mumford's first possession as well. You mentioned Lewis Jetta, so Mummy hasn't got in the game either.
Chesky, good attack. Spur caused the crash. McFarlane to Duffield. Crowley.
Now these are the exits that are almost identical to what we saw from the Swans trying to get it out of their forward 50. Here it is. You look up, great vision there. And this is the kick that didn't work for the Swans in the first quarter, and it's not going to work for the Dockers in the second quarter either. So they're almost identical setups, and I'm not sure exactly what John Long was talking about here, but certainly he would be reasonably happy with the way they're set up defensively when the Dockers are exiting. They're dominating forward 50s, the Swans, this quarter, as the Dockers did at the start of the first quarter.
Goods floats one inside 50. Sits on its end. Tommy Walsh, no prior opportunity, brought down. The ball up. You saw Lee Tudor, Stuart Dew also in that Swans box. And, of course, it was Fremantle coach Ross Lyon who was in that box with John Longmire. Backman Paul Roos was coach of the Swans. He knows these Swans so well, Ross Lyon. You're going to have a chat about both of them at half-time, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think Jace can ask me some tricky questions at half-time about both of them, so I'm preparing my answers now.
You know them both very well, Rosie.
I'd have to say at ground level, this is one of the most intense games that I've seen for pressure. Every decision is made at speed and at pace, and I tell you what, it's just, as I said before, an illustration of the modern game, but any mistake will be magnified tonight.
Yeah, it is finals-like out there at the moment. It doesn't look like round 8 out there. It could well be September. If these two do meet in September, and there's a chance of that, you can expect this all over again. Parker, a roller, Morton, little slip, Duffield wraps him up, no prior again, ball up.
Now the inside 50s have evened up now, Jace. It's now 15-16 in Freo's favour, but it was 15-9 at quarter time. So the Swans have certainly evened that ledger in this quarter.
Good grab, Pike. Held his ground, used his body, strong hands.
Yeah, just too big and strong there for Zach Dawson. Pushed back on him, took the ball at the highest point, and he's a big man, Mike Pike. If he can jump up and reach the ball at the highest point, it's going to make it very hard for someone behind Zach Dawson here. He doesn't have the run and jump. He's just jumping off 2 feet. Very difficult to get the elevation to spoil.
And an accurate kick. He's hit 8-3 this year, and he is one of the great modern-day footy stories. And he gives Sydney the lead for the first time tonight.
He's become just a super important player for them. The way the Swans generally bring the ball in their forward 50 is long and high into the dangerous area. And when you get a guy that can mark a contested football like Mike Pike can do now, it's a real advantage. And here it is. You probably just need to body him up a little bit more, Zach Dawson there. Just need to body him up out of the contest and keep him away from the drop of the ball. And that was his. And here we see the still here. It's fantastic still. Just shows a pretty similar setup to the Dockers in the first quarter. You can see the guys just sitting out the back. The Swans guys, really terrific vision that. Just to see the Swans defensively are trying to keep the ball inside their forward 50 and not let easy exits, and certainly work at the moment, as the Swans have had 7 inside 50s to 1 this quarter.
Duffield gets them inside 50, and again Smith. We'll show you a little bit of that to try and explain what's going on in this game. About the congestion factor, the tackling factor. So far, this one is going to the script. Sutcliffe back to Duffield.
Yeah, plenty of numbers on the fat side, though, Sydney. They don't want them to change direction. You can see they've got plenty of players filling up the holes, cutting off the change of direction.
I reckon that's a significant change, Jace. I reckon they've talked about that at quarter time. The first quarter, the Dockers were able to go side to side. It looks like now, if in the mid-zone, Kingy, I don't know if you can pick it up, looks like the mid-zone now, Swans have chosen to go one-on-one rather than a zone.
They have, Ruzy, and you can just see it's forced this long kick down the line. Makes these drop of balls really big wins for the Swans here.
Jack, McVeigh, smother back to McVeigh. Malcheski, now they want to peel to the open side and run. Smith to Jetta, who likes to run. There's a bounce on offer if he wants it. Puts the Jets on. Eat my dust. Pumps it long. Goal square. Ibbotson up. Back of the pack. Kept in by Parker. Still alive for the Swans here. O'Keefe. Hamwell didn't have enough on it.
I'm not too sure I've seen a player, and this is a big statement, Jack, but I don't know if I've seen a player that can run away from every single player in the opposition.
I don't know if you saw the despairing dive from Michael Walters. Seriously, it was one of the best attempted dives to chase Stuart Chetty you've ever seen.
I mean, we saw Rioli in the grand final. Rioli can dead set catch anyone, and Lewis Jetta can get away from just about, well, I reckon just about every player in the competition.
You're almost worse off chasing him because it actually makes him run faster.
Exactly right. Yeah, no, you're right. You need to come from the front, not behind.
You need to slip over. Take yourself out.
So it opens up for Hanneth here.
Oh, now he had the change of direction kick then, and he took the wrong option.
De Boer got a couple against him. Everett spills it. Caught. Makes it Malcheski's problem. Well worked. McGlynn. Tommy Walsh takes the mark. Oh, that's not good.
Just slipped on the cricket pitch there.
One of the few grounds still in Australia with a cricket pitch, the SCG, and brought him undone there. O'Keefe, Jetta getting involved now over Kennedy's head. Mumford couldn't take it.
Certainly up the intensity in this quarter. I'm sure John Longmire would have given him a bit of a rev. Just going.
Yeah, the right foot just slips from underneath him.
And he nearly had a fresh area, but I reckon that's one off the tee, that one.
Barlow bangs it wide. Clancy Pearce, Jetta right on his hammer. Grundy, hand on it. Walters almost plucked it and ran. How did the umpire judge that?
He had his head down. His head down.
Walters bangs it inside 50, wide for 5, so De Boer has to go. Everett, good fist.
Geez, Walters just need to hang on to that ball, I reckon, a couple of sections longer, Dwayne. He called 5 coming inside forward 50, and here's the incident here. Yeah, that's a nasty one, that one.
Richards couldn't have gone much lower.
No.
Clark palms it down to Subin.
I think Teddy was going for the ball. There's no question about that. So, no, not at all. Just nasty when you see it on the replay, that's all. But Fife would have had McVeigh one-on-one in the goal square if Walters had to just wait a little bit longer. And that's a difficult one for Macca. Macca's pretty good overhead, but a difficult contest versus Fife, who's a genuine marking midfielder. But he just pulled the trigger a little bit too early.
Tossed in the air. Barlow got a kick without taking possession.
This is the kick here that's going to separate the game, in my opinion, that the short kick or the long kick preference from this deep pocket situation. If they can get out here, the Swans, they can score.
So Richards being hunted down by Main, who keeps his feet and content to take it to the line.
He did well, Main. He sat off Richards, encouraged the kick, and then he was so quick to get back and affect the spoil.
They haven't had a lot of luck with that Kingy so far, the Swans, out of their defensive 50. So it's certainly something I'm sure they would have addressed at quarter time.
Clark to flick down Everett. Couldn't handle it. Subin gang tackled. Clancy Pearce in tight. And it comes out. Jack pokes it to halfback Ibbotson. Had more intercept marks last week than any player in the comp. Coming off a good week last week. Puts it high. Fife up high. Couldn't mark it. Smith again, dangerous kick. Hanbury made it look perfect. Bolton, Kennedy, and then Morton dumped. And Pearce steals it back, and he's on the left. Long towards the goal square. Walters!
At 5 short, didn't he?
Yeah. He just missed 5 terribly.
And now Fife's telling him, just lower your eyes, and you would have hit me on the lead 25 metres out.
Told him a couple of times.
He did.
High on advantage allowed, and Reed's hands were good there.
Fife's the one who looks likely in that forward line at the moment. The rest of the forwards seem to be battling to draw the ball.
You can see their ball use too, Kingy. They don't look dangerous because their entries are so poor at the moment.
Pearce, Johnson, Sutcliffe.
He's still on his own 5.
It is a little slippery. And again, they want Walters, although Silvani almost made it his.
Just another really poor entry there, De Boer. Just rushed. I'm not sure why he needed to rush himself. Just go back. You mentioned Fife. Fife's looking really dangerous, Kingy, inside 50, but no one can get it to him.
Stolen back by Kennedy. Play on advantage here. Hanbury takes off. They've got open space ahead. Morton realises that now. Everett. Who does he want, though? Bolton's running so hard. Gets there. Can't pull it in. Keeps his feet.
That was well done by Zach Dawson. He left Mumford behind him. Made the early decision to leave Mumford and come across and make the spoil on Jude Bolton.
1-point ball game. Clark and Mumford. O'Keefe. Kennedy, another clearance. Hanbury within range.
Classic case of looking at the man and not the footy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He had his back to the footy, Ryan Crowley. Only went the bare distance, but in his endeavours to make sure that Hanbury wasn't getting out the back and getting free, he wasn't tracking the footy, and the ball went so close to him when Hanbury marked it. He could have easily spoiled it if he was aware of it.
That's what he has ahead of him. 46% the probability. All players, not Dan Hanbury. Gee, struck it well. That is a delight. They lead by 7.
Well, it's the second time inside the defensive 50, Crowley's lost the ball. We saw Hanbury mark one and Jason the first quarter. That time he just clearly turned his back on it.
He knows he's in for a tough night when you've got Ryan Crowley following you. So what you do have to do is make sure when you get an opportunity, you punish him. So he's had 2 chances to go forward. He's got on the end of it both times. You can see Crowley there. He was with him as he went past. He's having a spell. He's thinking no danger here, and got the shock of his life when Hanbury marked it.
It always astounds me when players play the game, Dwayne, and don't watch the ball. I mean, it seems such a simple thing in football. Now, I know his main role is to play on Dan Hanbury, but you've got to be aware of where the football is.
I suppose when he's only 10 metres away from the kicker and you think he's running to the square, you just take off and try not to let him lose you.
Kick the last 4 now, the Swans. Real challenge for Ross Lyon and his troops to just wrestle some momentum back here.
Yeah, good point, Kingy. Started well. If you just joined us, Fremantle kicked the first 2 goals of this game. Opened up a 14-point lead. Sydney's controlled it somewhat since then. Jetta wanted to run and go. Parker hands it up. This is for number 3 for Hanbury. Awesome!
Boys, he given Ryan Crowley something to think about. The expression, the jubilation when he kicked it. And if you hadn't seen Ryan Crowley, he just wandered off to the side and was basically looking out the space in despair, thinking, gee, that's 3 he's got away from me. You'll see him here on the right-hand side. There's Crowley. He's a couple of metres behind. He just eased off, couldn't make up the ground. But if you see the reaction once he kicks the goal, it was big from Hanbury and despair for Crowley. He's not used to getting beaten.
I'll tell you what, for an experienced tagging player, he's let Hanbury get goal side far too easily and far too often. That's a real major adjustment that Crowley has to make. And as I said, he's an experienced tag, played some great midfielders, but he's letting Hanbury, the last 2 times at a stoppage, he's letting him get past him and get goal side of him.
So 5 goals in a row now, the Swans. The Dockers have seen this script before. Opened up well last week, opened up a 44-point lead last week against Collingwood and saw it all eaten up.
Well, what he did last week was throw Michael Walters onto the ball and into the centre bounce situations. It might be worth trying that sort of gamble again.
Hanneth pumps it in the Walters' direction. Stan starts, Smith right with him. Stolen by Richards. Almost stolen back, Ballantyne. Umpire gives them time.
It's close to in the back, or it's close to holding the ball. One of the 2.
Gave Parker an enormous amount of time. Kennedy, Grundy, Bolton.
The other issue we're seeing, Roos, is all of a sudden the entries for Freehold dried up, and it's just that long bomb which Sydney eat up.
No creativity at all with their inside 50s. It's very predictable at the moment, the Dockers. You're absolutely right. They've got the 2 best key defenders at actually reading the ball and helping each other in Grundy and Richards. And they've got some good half backs, Melcheski that drops back, and some mids that push back as well. So that's not going to work if they just bomb it in the forward 50 to the Swans.
Mumford and Walsh crash hard. It's the deck. Duffield have it up just in time. Sutcliffe, Johnson, torpedo that doesn't really work. He knows it's coming back.
Well, everyone's in the forward half of the ground at the moment. Only a couple of Sydney Swans players back sweeping.
Parker having a pretty good night at the office so far. Back to Malcheski. Every Fremantle player ahead of him. To Goods. And now the inside 50 read by Mundy. No mark. Good enough to pick it up. Just in time. Goods steals it back again. Wobbles one to the hot spot. Everton. Good release kick to Mundy.
It's just a very good reader of the ball, Everton. He's a great defender that watches the ball and always gets to the dangerous area.
Oh, they're out here.
So McFarlane sees Walters working up to half back. Hits him. Important kick this, Hanbury. And that's an arm slap. Free kick, Sutcliffe.
Wasn't the best of kicks from Walters. He was looking for it out in front of him, Sutcliffe, but he stood strong over it.
Clancy Pearce. Hanneth. Not quite. Ballantyne. That's his bread and butter.
Gee, they're missing a lot of goals.
That's a bad miss.
That's a bad miss. So down the other end, 7 scoring shots. 6 goals 1 to 10 scoring shots, 3 goals 7. So it's really been a matter that when the Swans have been on top, they're kicking goals. When the Freo Dockers have been on top, they're kicking points.
Rampy. Got it from Malcheski. McFarlane read it okay. Bolton slapped an arm. Ibbotson play on advantage if he wants it. Umpire told him he had to take it. Ballantyne sits on him and he gets a free.
Just wonder, Roosie, whether it might be worth having a look at Silvani down and deep in defence and giving McFarlane a chance at full forward just to change the mix.
Well, they're certainly not getting anything out of their bigs, but and the worst problem with that, King, is it means they're not getting anything out of their smalls as well. Neither Ballantyne or Walters have kicked a goal because their bigs are just not dangerous at the moment. And it's making it really hard for Ballantyne and Walters to get into the game also.
Sits it up to the hot spot. Silvani had a crack at it. Parker trying to kick it away, still over it, and gets one for too high.
Geez, they're frustrating free kicks, those.
Yeah.
There's a tangle of arms and legs, and
it's a congestion clearer from the umpire there. Everett.
You've got a player that's burrowing underneath everybody. It's nearly impossible not at some stage to get touched high.
Especially if he's rolling around and writhing, trying to find an arm that'll hit him high.
Yeah. The other one, Kingy, that there's a wild card maybe is Johnson going forward. He's got Walsh at the moment. Maybe he could swap over Silvani and Johnson because he's a smart player, Johnson. He gets to the right spot. He reads the game really well. Hasn't played a lot forward, but when he does, he's able to get to the contest, and he might be one that can get into space and take some marks inside forward 50, because at the moment they're just getting nothing from any of their big forwards.
They have gone tall forward, Sydney. They've got both Mumford and Pike playing as deep forward targets.
Yep.
They throw Reid in amongst them.
And Walsh is there too. Yeah.
O'Keefe.
This will go to the tall timber.
Pike's the man. And Dawson had an arm.
So now it's Hanneth and Mumford. One out in the square, and Mumford wants it in quick.
And Malcheski puts it there high. Spur gets back. Leaps. Crashes it to the deck. Spur. Mundy.
Trouble is they've got so many numbers back. They don't have many options when they're coming out of defence, the Dockers.
And that's what I was going to say, Jace. What Swans are very good at is not letting them get goal side. You can see here, Teddy Richards is the last defender. Rampy's in behind him. Grundy's in behind him. So already they've got 2 loose players, Sydney back. So they're really quick to defend their defensive 50. And it's just a poor turnover.
Really poor kick from Mundy. And that's a poor free kick from Dawson because they had 4 on 1.
Yeah.
So they've just lost a hand on things at the moment, the Dockers. Crowd thought it was a 50, but he was just making sure he went back behind the mark.
5 goals in a row now to Sydney. They put the foot down. Mumford. McFarlane got there with the fist. Mumford crumbs it. Can't get an arm free. Malcheski parts the seas. Rolls past a couple. Clark. Johnson. Main. And that'll do probably.
But even if he gets possession, he turns around and kicks it. You got Malcheski, you got Everett, you got Richards just waiting back.
Yep.
They've got to find a better way to transfer the ball out of defence. They've either got to run and carry, or they've got to station a couple of people deep and wide to give them an outlet kick.
3 minutes from half-time. Mundy gave it up just in time. De Boer, no one to go too long.
That's a smart kick because Rampy's back. And again, the Swan, look at the Swans all running back in the defensive 50. You're not going to get an easy ball going over the top against the Swans.
Walters in front of Main.
That's
fantastic.
A great kick. That is a great kick.
That's a perfect kick.
Yeah, perfect kick.
Only option he had.
Yeah, that is a great kick.
A really good lead from Main because he led away from where all the loose Sydney defenders were.
Well, you had Rampy, Jace, in behind, Grundy in front. Here it is. This is great vision. Watch Rampy up the top of the screen. Grundy was in front. That is an absolute A-grade kick. A+, I reckon.
Just see if he runs towards the middle of the goals. He does have a very efficient technique, Chris, mate. He's got to follow that white line.
He's a dead eye, but he's already missed one tonight. He's now missed 2.
Poor ball drop when they could ill afford it.
3 goals, 8.
So a couple of simple ones. Ballantyne misses a regulation snap. Main misses a set shot. And it dents the confidence.
Oh, good pressure on McVeigh. Richards. Main comes at McVeigh. All the way back to Grundy.
Dangerous.
A lot of pressure in this one. Spur. Good grab.
I think Ryan O'Keefe said we need to get the ball
I
out.
think Mumford's hurt too. Spur might have caught him in the ear. We'll check that shortly. Puts it back to the hot spot. Ballantyne from 4 deep. Couldn't mark it. Fife from the pocket. Across the face.
That's a shot at goal, Jason.
It's missed by a long way.
That's an attacking
Look at
option
this.
for the Swans.
Everett to Hanbury. This is for number 4 for Hanbury. Plenty of time to size it up. The crowd roar. Oh, don't they just love it? Hanbury has 4.
Gee, that was unbelievable. All the pressure up at the other end, and that's exactly what happens when you don't make the most of your opportunities. Sydney will punish it. He had a decision to make, Daniel Hanbury. He's kicked 3 in the second term, 4 for the match, but he had Lewis Jetta running, and there was one man in between, and he started to run towards Jetta. He tried to bring him into it, but in the end he thought, look, I'm running straight at goal. I'm 35 out. I'll just kick it myself.
And that was friendly fire between, I think, Pike on Mumford. So that's a good finish by Hannahs. But that all started, in all seriousness, that was a shot at goal from Fife. A shot at goal that landed 20 metres out from goal and created a counter-attack from the Sydney Swans. That's how bad their goal kicking is going at the moment. 3-8, and that one didn't even get close to scoring.
Oh, Mumford, hugely. Couldn't bring it down. They're not done here. The Swans, they've got a minute to play with. They're on fire. Ibbotson. Richards. Time enough for a slow build-up, a measured build-up if he wants it. There's the pass to Reid.
They're the ones he's got to get more of, Sam Reid. Just get those ones on the lead.
And Bolton in the pocket. Will he have a crack from there? Scoreboard says 26 and a bit gone, so he probably knows he's got time here if he wants to hit the top of the square.
Well, you think the way the game's going, Dwayne, he'll kick this. They've kicked 7 goals, 1 to 3-8. So, and he's normally a pretty good kick at goal, Jude.
This will bring the house down. Looks good off the boot. Not quite.
It'll be a big decision for Ross Lyon in terms of the matchup in the second half. I mean, Crowley on Hanbury hasn't worked.
No.
He's kicked 4, got plenty of it.
Yeah, you don't often see Ryan Crowley get towelled up like he has in the first half.
Half-time here at the SCG. Massive roar from the Sydney faithful. And they have turned it on. After Fremantle kicked the first 2 goals of this one. They've kicked 6 goals in a row, Sydney, to lead by 18 points at a half-time. Don't go away. The coach of the 2 coaches, Paul Roos, to talk about Sydney coach John Longmire and Fremantle coach Ross Lyon. Half-time at the SCG, Sydney by 18.